Welcome, folks, to the second part of this amazing series where we are building health recommendation system using agents. In this part, we are going to start our basic template where we will be creating a small Flask app. And in the next part, we are going to add functionality to it. So let's get started. We are going to create a folder by the name of backend. Here we are going to keep our backend files and one folder by the name of frontend. Here we are going to create our front-end files. Now in the backend files, let me get into it and create a small file, or let's start that with the help of creating our first virtual environment. Let me get inside the backend folder and I'm going to start my virtual environment so that we can install all our dependency in that environment itself. I've successfully created my virtual environment. Let me initialize it. I finally initialized my virtual environment. Now I'm going to create one file by the name of requirements.txt. Here I'm going to paste, or I'm going to put all the files that are required or that will be passed as dependency for this project. So initially we need CrewAI, that is very important. We would also be using CrewAI tools. Then we need, since we will be using our env file, so we need python.env for this. PyPDF too, because what we are building is we will be uploading a PDF and that PDF has to be read. So we will be using PyPDF2 for that. LangChain for creating agent flow. LangChain community, because most of the functionalities are now upgraded to LangChain community. DuckDuckGo search engine, because we will be searching on the internet for the project files. And let me increase the text size so that you can see it clearly, and let me make it smaller. Yeah. Then DuckDuckGo search engine, because we need to search over the internet for the requirements of according to the project requirements. Then we will be having some LLMs along with it. So one of them that we are going to use is Grok. So recently created Grok we are going to use. We will also be using LangChain and Google Gemini. So for Gemini that we want to use, then we would also be using OpenAI so that we can switch to any model, whichever preferred model we want to create our health recommendation with. Then the next thing that comes is, sorry, sorry guys. Yeah, Flask. Then I think that will be fine for now. And if we need something else, we will be using that. Now, let's get started by installing all these dependency in our virtual environment. So just a simple pip3 minus our requirements pip3 install dash our requirement.txt. And finally, so I have multiple virtual environment and we're using Python 3.12 for this. Yeah. So it's installing some of the packages. Till then, what we are going to do, we are going to initialize our project by creating one file by the name of main.py. So this will be our initial file. We are going to create some basic AI setup, basic Flask setup, so that it will be work as REST API for us that we can use further in our front-end app to show the results. So let's get started with it. So then let me just start by creating a small import statements like import OS for fetching all our .env file. Then CrewAI, I think we don't need it now for as such. We won't be using CrewAI right now. Let me just get to the part where we will be using Flask. So from Flask, import Flask. We would also be using request and JSONify for returning the results. Then this will be fine for that. And one more thing, because since we are using our .env file, so we would also be using load.env. Since there are multiple dependency that has to be downloaded, so it is taking a lot of time. And once it's done, we will be able to access each of them. Then once this is done, we have to initialize our load.env, and we are going to create our small app by the name of app. Is there some issues? You're using pip version. Okay, let's upgrade our pip version. Once it's upgraded, let's use it again to install. And since it is asking pip3 is not found, let us go with pip for now. And let us install all the packages that are required for this project. It might take some time. Till then, let us get back to our code. So we are creating Flask, and in the Flask, we are going to create name so that we are able to initialize a Flask app. Then we need some basic routes like app.route that we are using, and this will redirect us to a slash. This is the home route for our project. And here I'm just going to create one basic function, def function by the name of home. And this will just return one word, that is our server is running. Server is up and running. Then the next thing that we can do for our project, or we can directly like return it. So let's see if this is working fine for us or not. So if underscore name equals to main, then we just initialize our app dot run. And since we are creating for the development mode right now, so we will be using debug equals to true. Let's see if it is working fine. So Python 3 main dot py. See, this is working fine. Let's test it out. Just, so for testing it out, let me share my entire screen. And for testing, let's just get to this link. And since this is saying server is up and running, finally, we have started our server. So this was the basic setup where we just initialize the Flask app so that we can use in our project. And we have just installed some of the packages that were required for this project. And since this .env might have been installed incorrectly, yeah. So this was the project basic setup for the backend part. Let's get to the front end part and let us install the front end VTAP. So I will get back to the Vite documentation, and from there we are just going to start the installation. And yeah, let's get to the front end file. And for this, we don't need this. Let us deactivate it. And once it's deactivated, let's get to the front end folder and let us install the Vite app. So project name, since it is a front end folder only, I'm not going to create extra folders here. We are going to use React with TypeScript and SWC. We have created a folder, and let me just do a npm I so that I am able to install all the dependencies inside it. And in this backend folder, let me also add one more file by the name of gitignore so that it won't get added to the .git file. One of them is venv that we don't need. We don't need .env file too, so that it doesn't get pushed to GitHub. And we have finally initialized the project for the front end. And let me just run it. So npm run dev, and we are able to run this project successfully. Let me delete the unnecessary files right now. So app.css we don't need, or we can just remove the index.css. We won't be using it. Then main.tss, this looks fine. We don't need this file. Then app.tsx, we can remove this entire structure till paragraph, so that we have our basic setup done. And finally, we will be able to see a white screen. So we don't need this at all. And app.css, let me remove everything. Yeah, we should be able to see a white screen. Yeah. So we have initialized this folder or this front end file. And yeah, I think that is all. Also, if we want to add Tailwind, so let me just add the Tailwind file to it. So this is a Vite app. So I'm just starting with Tailwind with Vite. So we have already initialized a project. So let me just install all these things which are required for initializing our project with the Vite. We get into the front end folder and we install all these dependencies which are required for this our Vite. Since we are using TypeScript for this project, so I've installed TypeScript version for it, and we are also using Tailwind CSS for our styling purpose. Then once we have done it, we can just use Tailwind init -p to initialize it. And we have created a post Tailwind config file. Now it says like you have to copy this and paste it in your project. We have copied it and pasted it in our project, and we need to add this file in index.css. Since we do not have index.css, but we have app.css, so I'm going to add it over here. And then I have to reinitialize or restart the project. And once we have done it, I think we should be able to see the styles applied of Tailwind. So let me just test it out if it is working fine. I'm just going to initialize a div hello world. And here I'm just going to give it a text size of let's say 24 pixels to see if it's working fine. Yeah, it seems to be working fine, because if I make it font bold, yeah, so the Tailwind CSS is applied correctly and we are able to use it in our project. So that was all for this video, because we have initialized our front-end files and we have also created this backend file. Now in the next part, what we are going to do, we are going to initialize, or we are going to start our agent development, where we will be creating a basic setup of agent, with the help of which we can create health recommendations. So I hope to see you in the next video. Thank you guys for watching this video till last.